Okay, so I'm here with Ciaran Clarke, 7-0, illustrious amateur career underneath that. He's had a movie made about him, Relentless. If you haven't seen it, I really suggest you do. So, but to get to where he is today, they all start somewhere, and I want to go back into where did you start? How did you start MMA and why?
Yeah, so I started MMA back in 2011, and I always, was always interested in martial arts growing up. Like, myself and my brother, being brothers, you know what I mean? We were always, always interested in all that. And yeah, like that, like, long story short, like, we just, I think it just consumed me from a young age in the sense that I was the older brother in the house. I was, grew up in a single parent house. I'm the eldest of 4 siblings at home. And, I think I nearly had like a little bit of responsibility, like in my own head, I was the man of the house, but like, if that makes sense. So like, and like, not that like everyone, of course, gets bullied when they're at some stage in life, but it wasn't even that. It was just like, I don't know, in a funny little way, I felt like, I had a little bit of responsibility, like fighting kicks off,
that you can
whatever happens, yeah. And again, people probably look at that and laugh, but like that's the way my mind thought, you know what I mean? And like, it wasn't if my father wasn't around, obviously he wasn't living at home, but like, he was like, but like, again, like that, when you're in that kind of environment and when you're growing up in the state and been out in the street and stuff, like, and, those things matter, you know what I mean? And that really consumed me. It was like, what, well, look, if someone tries to take something from you, which they do when you're growing up, especially in Drogheda here and all that, like, everywhere, you want to be able to, stand your ground, you know what I mean? And I was always about that, and I always was like, well, if anyone's going to try that with me, they're going to remember it, So like, it was like, and like even like going forward, like to elaborate on it, like when I have kids, like the 2 things I think, as far as obviously education and everything else, and and religion for me anyway, but like, the 2 things is like learning to defend yourself and to swim. I think them 2 like are the 2 pillars, you know what I mean? Like you need to have some sort of the 2, you know what I mean? Like so it was just that, and then obviously that maybe sparked it to like, I dabbed in a bit of boxing again, like that, few months here and there. Did, never compete, but did a bit of sparring and all that, and myself and my brother going up and with our mates and stuff, and then from there, then it was just mates in school at the time was training MMA, and they were like, oh, come in and join, and you like that. Then I was 15 at the time, and yeah, it's just went in, and sure, I went in. I was like, I loved how hard it was, the boy. Like, I loved, because I would have played Gaelic and football growing up, and like I just loved how tough it was, the boy. Like, even though like obviously in Gaelic and football doing sprints, but like it was just so physical, and I just loved that, you know what I mean? Like, even like growing up and all that, I always wanted to be the person catching people. Yeah. Do you get me? I wasn't the one trying to run. I was the one wanting to catch people, and I was like just little things of that, and it's maybe who I am today, I don't know, but just little things of that, and again, all of those things just, built me who I am, and here I am now, you know what I mean? You're sitting here taking your time out of day to come up and talk to me, you know what I mean? It's just mad, like, the way.
Yeah, it is a mad rise, and we'll get to kind of where you are now once we go through, and like that. You said you and your brother came up through as well. Was SBG the first gym you went to? Was that the first gym you tried? No,
it wasn't actually. The first gym we tried was No Fear MMA, and that was Conor Dillon at the time, and he still is. He's black belt now and still training. Was a professional fighter for years. Actually fought Conor McGregor back in the day, before the Cage Warriors, before the world titles and everything else. But yeah, so Conor was basically, he was only young at the time, 23, and we joined there, and like, coming from, like that, it was, again, me being the oldest, and the next later you get into a gym where he's a professional fighter, disciplined, that's who I was looking up to, instead of, the older lads in the estate or the older boys in the street, or, so like that was my, I suppose that was my blessing, you know what I mean? Like, I was blessed to meet him, like, I was like, that's who I was starting to look up to, if that makes sense. So, whereas some people might have went that way, because I was, looking up to these type of characters, and I was looking up to the lads in the gym that was walking away or coming to train, and does that make sense, So, like, it was such a big thing for me, training with Conor, and like, he always was like, what he instilled in us, what we maybe lacked in technique at the time, like, we really trained hard. Like, it's not like we weren't training conditions like this. We were training just out in the shed out his back. Like, he was just training like for professional fights back. Like, even though it wasn't that long ago, it was like 12, 13 years ago, but it's not. It was like, that's what it was back then, you know what I mean? And like, yeah, like just to harden us up, you know what I mean? So then we did go to SPG. We were training 4 years. I was 20 at the time. Dara was 18. We were like, look, we want to have a crack at this. Just done the routes out. Had to get the bus to Lewis up the training, and then again another blessing in my life was John Kavanagh. Then you know what I mean? He just basically within a month he was like, oh, do you want to train the pro team? We were like deadly, and started training the pros, and ever since that, then obviously opportunities came my way. Just obviously as I said through John, and yeah, just I stuck with it, and that was it. Then you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's good. Like that, it was good that you could have that figure to look up to, because, like you said, in Drogheda and among many places throughout the country, it's so easy for kids to go astray. They see people with money, they see this, they see that, and they can go that way. But the fact that you had that figure, and from obviously now you are that figure to people. How does that make you feel? Because especially in Drogheda, like I hear loads of people, he's an inspiration. Like they all come out for your fights. How does that make you feel for that to flip and you're that person now?
Yeah, it's a mad one, to be honest, because like that, as I said, you started just for your own selfish reasons, and still like that, you're doing it for. But then next later, like you have all these people come to your fights, and you're meeting people's kids, and they're like, like, oh, I want you to meet the young fella, get a photo, and it's like, it's just mad, like because. And I do feel that. I feel the responsibility, and sometimes it is a little bit of pressure, and like, because then you're like, no way, like I have, like, I'd never thought this, and then, so like it is mad in that way, but like that, if I can be like that for people, and that's another thing. You always ask the question, what would you like to be remembered for? Like that's another thing with me, like, I did it the hard way. You know what I mean? Look at my amateur career, 13 wins, 11 losses. I fought the who's who. I fought the best in the world. I fought the brawler, the wrestler, the Russian, the Brazilian, as far as that. And then like I didn't get any handouts, you know what I mean? I didn't come from money, I didn't fall into this, so I was just blessed the people I met in my life, and that I didn't, I was training full time, working the weekends, 24 hours to make ends meet to go up and train. I didn't get any handouts, you know what I mean? And I did it that way, and I think, I think if that's what they're looking up to, then I think, well, maybe I could be a good example like that, you know what I mean? And then, not as if I'm where I want to be, but I'm doing well enough, like, so, and again, that's like that down to me sponsors, the people I've met along the way, but I've been able to do it, you know what I mean? The likes of yourself giving me the coverage to talk about this or whatever, so I just feel blessed, to be honest, man. That's really it,
That must feel surreal, the fact that people, and then do you feel like a responsibility now to not obviously, because I know you on a level, whereas I know your character, you're a good person, and sometimes people, not fighters, but people might go off the rails a little bit through this. Do you feel a responsibility to always put your best foot forward to be an example, or does that factor, or is that just because you're a good person anyways, you're never really going to go and do anything?
Yeah, like I do feel that, but then it's like, I'd be like that anyway. But then obviously, when you have that kind of pressure on you, or that expectation. And another thing as well, when you start to get like a little bit known or whatever, like the slightest bit, you know what I mean? Like around the turn or whatever, like people think they know you. And like they have this expectation of you. And I seen something today or something online, like everyone here has their expectations of me. And yours is different to the next person's, and like they actually don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes,
so
they don't know.
I have that like little bit, and then it is good in the sense because like you win a fight, and everyone's wanting to congratulating, and it's brilliant. You know what I mean? The sport you get, but then you go up to the gym and everyone's just like, well done, fist bump, class. They were buzzing for you. And then if you lost, like say Lee Hammond, just came out this week that he lost in the Ultimate Fighter. Like nobody's like thinking it's like, it's just like we know how good Lee is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His peers and his training partners, they know how good he is. And the same, like if I took a loss in the gym, but you don't go in and everyone's looking at it as if it's your funeral. Whereas you might go out in the, and everyone thinks it's like you lost the fight. And when you win, it's so like people parade it and then they think it's like the end of the. So things like that, like it just kind of puts things into perspective, if that makes sense,
Yeah, who's kind of really there, because obviously Lee went in, we all know how good Lee is, and he was actually winning that fight until he wasn't, which I don't know if that would make sense, but he was winning that fight until obviously he got caught, and he actually put a post up as well, like, and this is what I want to do these interviews for. I want people to see who you are, who Lee, if I ever get to interview him, to see behind, because people see you for 15 minutes, 9 minutes if you're an amateur. They don't see, like you spoke how long ago you started, they don't see, your next fight is basically your life's work in the making, and I want people to be able to appreciate that, because like I said, you go back to the gym, and it's not, Paul probably go, or John be like, right, 24 hours to sulk, we're on to the next one. That's all I can do. Obviously, you haven't lost in a while, so you haven't got that feeling at pro yet. But yeah, no, people outside, this is what I want to give them an insight to. But like you talked there about your amateur career, like I said, 13-10. I've always used you as an example, whether you hate me for it or not, as get those fights, get those hard fights in amateur, because a lot of fighters will speak to in amateur when they lose, they're like, oh, and I'm like, you've been in a position that now you know how to correct, so that won't happen in pro. You had that many fights. Do you think those losses have made you go on the streak that you're on as a professional?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, I mean, like you said, don't have to get into too much. You can look at my record, you can look into who I fought as well, and look how well they're doing at pro now, or even what they've achieved at amateur and stuff. I've won, I've lost against them. You know, I've fought the who's, you know, and like, you know, like you said, I've done all, the brawler, the wrestler, everything, the striker, you know, and, you know, that really stands me. And it's just to feel comfortable in there, you know what I mean? And I remember after, I don't know if it was the round number at the time, maybe it was a mental thing, but I remember I had my 20th fight and I started to really feel like comfortable. It was my third fight in the World Championships, like, and you know, like, you find that comfortability, and you know, it just becomes like, you know, you do it so long, and it's you know, it helps you when you want to go pro. If that is your goal, I see some lads that having 6 fights, and like, you know, like, and I was earwig once, I won the shot, you know, and like some lads are like, oh, they're coming out a little scratch, and they're like, oh, I'm not doing this for any much longer unless getting paid for it. And I'm looking at them like, you know, man, like, if you're in this really for the long haul, you want to be getting as much experience as you can, like, you know, and like, again, it depends obviously on your age and stuff like that, and like how long you're doing it, but like, you know, having like a few fights and getting into pro, like when you get to a certain level, you're going to meet you're going to meet that guy, and like, you want to be ready, you know what I mean? So we all know who they are that went pro too early, or, you know, maybe that was what they were supposed to do, I don't know, but like, for me, I was just like, when I went to John and said I want to go pro, he was like, I thought you'd never ask. And like, we were having conversations, and he was like, do you want to go pro? Like, you know, like, he was like, yeah. Like, because I stayed that long, and like, you know, like, obviously he felt I was ready and stuff, but like, I just wanted, like, obviously my goal for a long time is to get a goal of the IMAPs and stuff, you know. And but yeah, that was, I think everybody should be going that route, you know. I really do.
Yeah, no, and like that, there's very few that have over the kind of 20 fights. Alexander Sullivan, who obviously I believe holds the record. I'm not going to say definitely, because someone will correct me out there. But I'm nearly sure as we interviewed Alex, there's like Carmel Conway's going up there.
Yeah, he's a lot, yeah.
He's been around a while. But like that, you've felt all those positions, and it's mad you say like someone gets a little cut and they want to, like, talk to us about the evolution of MMA since you started. Like you said, you were in the shed, the training, the health and safety, the rule sets. Like, how much have you seen in that time change so much for the betterment of the sport?
Yeah, like, I've seen, like, for the better, as far as the one thing I know is like the safety. Like, you know, people give out about it and all that, but like, I've met people that, like, these type of scans and stuff has, you know, saved their lives in ways, you know what I mean? So like, people can give out about it and all that, but at the end of the day, fighting's only what, 10, 15 years of your life, or whatever it may be, you know, and like that, it is my life, you know what I mean? And like, the person I am is because of it. But I know when I'm finished competing, fighting, that's most of the rest of my life, you know, the way it's like, you know, that's when I start having a family and all those things, you know what I mean? So like, and that's what really matters, you know what I mean? So like, you know, and again, like I said, this is, you know, the person you're talking today is because of this sport, you know what I mean? It's, you know, molding me into who I am. But, you know, like, what I've seen, like, you know, back then, like, it was like, if someone whipped out a phone to take a photo after a session, like, you'd be like, what is he doing, man? You know what I mean?
So, like, around the gym,
yeah, you know, like, what is he doing? You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Tell you I made you a training, you know? So like, and then now it's like I'm not great in the social media, like, posting every session and all that, and like, and people are like, you know, I notice they're like, oh, you still training? And I'm like, yeah, I'm still training. I train twice a day, 3 times a day sometimes. Of course, like, this is full time for me, like, you know, but I notice that's the social media end of it, you know, so you have to keep on top of that. And I think some people like black belts at social media, and some people are
black belts in.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that's the difference. There's black belts in social media, and there's black belts in, you know, martial arts, you know. So I've seen that, and I've seen, like, you know, the way people carry on through the evolution of Conor and stuff, and, you know, like, and, you know, Conor was always like that. Even like I said, when my old coach Conor Lillen fought him at the time, he was always that on boards.ie giving shit, you know. Yeah. I mean, Conor was always that, like, you know. Whereas you have like some young fella like trying to act like him, and I'm just like, I see people going around the hotel acting the maggot and like at the fights, and I'm just like, man, some big heavyweight come along, put his hand in your head, and just, it's an illusion, you know what I mean? To go around acting like you're the, you know, the tough man, you know what I mean? It's just, it's madness. So like, all of that, and then as far as the, you know, the skill, you have the likes of like Max Laddie going pro now. I remember training with him like a kid, like he's unbelievable, you know what I mean? Like the level it's got to be, like, you know, the space of like what you could get within 2 years training in this gym maybe would have took me, you know, 6 years back then, like at the start.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like, you know, it's just the level how we're doing at the IMAFs, at the Youth Worlds and everything, you know, so it's just, you know, it's unreal. I think really the sky's the limit for a little small country that we're in, you know.
Yeah, because the level at the amateurs, I think, because obviously I mainly focus on, with my other page, the amateurs, and the level that they're at now is just amazing, and everyone says what's coming underneath is mad. It's like that you've got people like Sean O'Bannon's gone to UFC, you've a couple of people on the verge UFC, you're going to see more SBG lads, you're going to see more people in Bellator, you've got Octagon and stuff now. But something with social media, obviously you said there, that some people are good and some people are bad. I think it's a double-edged sword. It can be good, it can be bad. You're going to have your Instagram fighters, but also a part of the fight game now, which I think is unfair, but obviously because of entertainment. Do you think social media is an aspect that gets looked at more, not as opposed to skill, but it kind of, they look at both, and if they have two people the same skill level, or maybe one slightly better, but the other one's better on social media, they might go, well, we're giving him the shot.
Definitely, 100%, and I think that has to be talked about, because it's like, and like we're all a victim of it, you know. That's why, like, if I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't be on it. That's a fact. Like, I would not be on that. Like, I have to be on it in the sense that, like that, like, you know what I mean? You notice when you're not on it that, like, you have to keep people up to date, and people, like, apparently people want to know anyway, you know what I mean? So, like, you have to keep them up to date with it all and what you're doing, and like what the sessions are doing and stuff, and like that. But like I said, I'll be a victim to it as well. I see like some people that are black belts at, and I'm like, you know, you might get caught up in it, like, and you're like, no way, like, I just realised here, like, he's just better at posting than me. Like, he's not actually training hard than me, he's doing acting different to me. I mean, he just has better social media, you know, the way, you know. So, and I think it is a big thing, like, not to get into it, but like, you know, we see, they do look at your profile, obviously, because, you know, as we see the way people have gone and stuff, you know, and it is a big thing, and even, like, people would mention it, oh, I have a big following and stuff, you know, and, like, I think it matters, like, you know, as I said, because at the end of the day, it's prize fighting, it's entertainment, like, you know. If you even notice, like, the Dagestanis, some of the Russians don't speak English, not many people really want to know if they, you know, like, and they're the best in the world.
You don't know them till they're in the UFC, and then goes, this lad's like 20 and 0, and you're like, where did he come from?
And then he learns English, and you're like, oh, I want to know him, and so, like, it's, you know, it does matter, you know what I mean? But like I said, it can be good and bad. You can get caught up in it all, and, you know, yeah, I just think for me, I started and not for that when it wasn't a thing. Where you know, back then when I started, I didn't have internet. You had to go down to the internet cafe.
I remember
and you know what I mean? You know, and so that's how I started. And you know, it's just not me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but that's what I like. You are you and authentically you, and that's what, like, we've tried to arrange this interview multiple times, but you're so busy. You're just like, I'm training, you're coaching, you're up here, you're doing what you need to do. You're just you, and you're in this 100%. We're going to go into your kind of pro career now, but just with your amateur career, just talk to us a little bit. The last end, obviously, the IMAS. What was your experience, and would you recommend it for the amateurs going forward?
Oh, 100%. Like I said, I think, you know, that's the route. That is the route. It's laid out for you. That's where you go. You see the amount of people that's gone from there to the UFC and everything else. All the likes of Lee, that's hard to get in the Ultimate before. You know, Jack Shaw from Wales. You know, McCarthy. You know, obviously the most notable. You know what I mean? Like that is the route. You're fighting the best in the world from each nation every day, and like it becomes normalized. You know, like you get used to, like, in the hotel with the fighter you're fighting. I could be sitting down with the guy I'm fighting the next day or that day doing medicals. We're just sitting there. It's nothing, like, you know what I mean? The both from the sauna, or just, you know, like, there's no, you know, like, sometimes you don't even know who you are fighting, you know. So, like, I remember, like, once I was fighting a fella the next day, and I didn't know. I was in the ice bath, and I was looking at the time. I was like, right, 10 minutes, right, and I'm in the yoke. There's me rattling, you know what I mean? And my man's beside me, just chilling out, and, you know, and I'm like, oh, if I had known if it was him, I would have been putting on a bit of a, you know. So, like, it normalises that type of thing, you know what I mean? And I think that is the route for them, because, again, like that, there's no other way to get ready. Like, as I said, lads going after 6 fights and, you know, all these sponsorship banners and stuff. And look, again, like that, I wouldn't be able to do it if I wasn't for the sponsors. But, like, you know, I just think, like, I heard John say it, like, years ago, like, you know, put the banner away and just, you know, I think that's why, you know, the boxing in this country, and obviously, like, you wouldn't be able to fight every week with MMA just because it's harder training on the body, injuries-wise and stuff. But, like, those lads having 200-300 fights, again, I don't know if that's possible in MMA, but like, that's probably why the Russians are so far ahead, because they're doing sambo since they're what age, and you know, so I think that is the route. Compete as much as you can. Don't have an ego. You know, don't be thinking to be winning. Look at me, an amateur. Like, I wasn't. Don't get me wrong. It meant everything to me to be winning. But like, you know, if I had a thought about my losses, I'd have thought I never went anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, like, and like that. It's only a record amateur, and Artem Lobov always says it. You know, your pro record goes on your gravestone. It's not your amateur. You know what I mean? So that's what I think for the amateurs going forward.
Yeah, and like that, it is good to look at. Like I said, I bring it up with fight as well. Look at that record and look at your pro now. So we're going to go into the pro. Like, you went straight into Bellator. Like, first, so obviously you'd fought the IMAS, you've been at this. What was it like first time going into Bellator, stepping into that promotion, into that cage for your pro debut?
Yeah, it was mad, and like that, come back to even like the IMAPs. Like, if I hadn't have done them, that wouldn't have given me that opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? Because I competed there for so long. And, you know, I became like, you know, someone that was a many-time amateur vet representing Ireland for them. So, like, that would have helped that. You know what I mean? If I was just fighting in local shows, and I highly doubt that would have come from me. You know what I mean? So, that, and then to go into that, like, as I said, all of that prepared me for that, you know. And again, like that, it's a whole different ball game. You know, it's 3 arena, 10,000 people, 300 people coming up from your area. And it's different, you know what I mean? It's obviously, you know, but all of that prepared me for it, as I said. But starting with Bellator was a dream come true. Like, you know, when John came to me, I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, all of it made sense, you know, all the ups, the downs, the amateur, it came to this, you know what I mean? And like I said, I'm blessed that I've met John through my life, and, you know, again, all the people. And I don't forget that either, you know what I mean? I know that that's the position I was given because of that reason, and I worked hard for it, and, you know, I got it, and I'm just luckier than others maybe, but to fight for Bellator first one, it was just like, as I say, dream come true. So, like, you know, to feel the canvas, the gloves, and just the whole production of it all, and the magnitude of it, how big it was in the 3 arena, you know what I mean? And then to think I'd fight there another 6 times, and fight abroad in Paris that time once, and it's just unreal, man, to be honest. It's, like I said, what you work for, you know?
Yeah, describe to the people what that crowd is like in Dublin.
It's when you're coming up out onto the ramp, the way the arena is, like, the cage is there, and it's just the sea of people, and it just, the energy just hits you like like a wallop, like, you know what I mean? Just bang, it hits you, and you can go 2 ways about it, you know what I mean? You can let it crumble, and, you know, for me, I'm just kind of really too focused. Like, other times I didn't even take it in. I was just like, you know, I fought in front of nobody, and I remember they got me entrance song wrong 2 or 3 times, but like, I was used to fighting with like, I don't even think about an entrance song. I don't even think about the whole, you know, razzmatazz of it all, you know what I mean? And like I said, I just fight in that cage right now, you know what I mean? It's just a fight for me, you know what I mean? So that really, you know, I was only maybe the last 3-4 fights I kind of started to take that in, and it's only in hindsight I'm like, right, take it in now, enjoy this. This is why you're doing it, you know what I mean? Like, you know, enjoy that, because like, it's when you look back, and but to explain it, you have to do it, and, you know, it's like I said, there's 2 types of people. You can go one way or the other. You can feed off it, and thank God every time I've fed off the energy and gotten the win there, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it is. It looks like for a fighter to go out that, it is special, and like that, you're on that run in Bellator. Rear naked choke seems to be the go-to choice. What's it like going up? Because like, when you started in Bellator, it was obviously similar records. But like, I've looked at the records of the guys you fought, like, once you got into your 3rd, 4th fight, you were fighting guys that had way more experience than you. And what was the thought process taking them fights? Like that, you've always taken the toughest fights. Did you always know, I'm better than them, I don't care what their record is, I'm going to beat them? Or did you just go in and they're just another human being in front of you?
The mentality was like, I'm here in the big leagues now. Like, you know, obviously, you know, you can debate, you know, UFC, of course, you know, but like, I mean, I was like, I'm in Bellator here now. Like, I'm not, you know, here to be, you know, turning down fights, or, you know, when you're building a record to get to there, maybe, you know what I mean? Like, but it wouldn't be me anyway, you know. But, you know, obviously the record amateur shows that. But, you know, it was just like, I'm here now, and whoever they put in front, it's just yes, you know what I mean? I'm ready for that now. You know what I mean? Like that, the amateur career, you know, the amateur stint, it prepared me for that. I knew I was ready for that, you know what I mean? And whoever they put in front of me, I said yes, like you said, 3rd pro fight, fighting a veteran that was supposed to fight Conor McGregor back in the day, just different ways, whatever happened with John and Doyle at the time. He was 8-1, coming back, he was watching interviews. He was going to be the next world champion. He's coming back. He's more mature. Blah blah blah. And here's me 2-0. You know what I mean? Getting in there to fight a vet and got the win. You know what I mean? Got 10-8 rounds in that fight. You know what I mean? And it just goes to show like that. And a lot of people might look and say like, oh, they'd more fights, or like, you know, maybe last opponent 11-5, 9, you know, 18 pro fights or whatever it was. And it's like, but if you look at my amateur career, I like, when you stack it up, I've actually more experience.
Yeah.
I've made the walk more than I've done, you know, I've trained for 30 plus fights, you know what I mean? So I think, again, going back to it, it really did stand to me. And like I said, I'm in Bellator. You can ask Jude, he can say this. John has put up tweets before, and you know, it's all there. They send the people to me. It's yes. Yeah. I've never turned down anyone. I've gotten 12-3 lads. I've gotten lads that are in the UFC now. I've said yes to them all. You know, I'm there to, you know, I'm already there. It's not as if I'm trying to build to get to there. So, and you know, long may it last. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, like that. You've fought some really, really experienced opponents, and I look at it going, Jesus, like, it's mad how some people's careers go, that some people will take the easier fights, whereas it seems to be an SBG thing. Brian Moore's the same. There's a couple others that are just like, no, I'm just taking whoever they put in front of me. When you hear the likes of Big John McCarthy and like Josh Thompson, because they've been very complimentary of you, I've noticed, like, from watching the commentary. What's it like to hear words from people like Big John, who's like a pioneer of the sport, who helped kind of set up the rule set, and Josh Thompson, who fought in the UFC? Or does that even enter your head?
Yeah, like that. In hindsight, it does, you know, like, because I think if you get you know, wrapped up in all that, the occasion will get to you, and you know, everything. But like that, talking to him before fights and stuff, the commentator interviews, and you're just like, this is mad. Like, I'm watching Josh Thompson, you know, knocking out Nate Diaz years ago with the head kick, and you know, watching him, and Big John McCarthy, you know, reffing some of the biggest fights in the world ever, and in the UFC obviously, and you know, like you said, creating the rules there, first referee before I was even born, and it's crazy, like, you know, and you just come to think, like, you know, where I've come, and you know, the likes of them getting behind me. Actually, Josh just retweeted me tweet the other day, and it's a bit surreal, you know what I mean? But like that, as I said, I've been working towards that, so it's like, no way, but then it's like, sure, you're working all many of these years to that, you know, so yeah, it's class, really, you know.
Yeah, no, it is, because it's mad when I hear them talk about Irish fighters, and you're like, I kind of know you, or I know whoever, and it's nice to see that you're getting the recognition. And you've had some fantastic performances in Bellator, some fantastic finishes. There's one thing I noticed about Judo as well, and it's like, sometimes the fight might not be going your way, but you make it go your way in the end. What do you put that down to? Is that hard corner work from John, or is it all of the above mixed in together? Yeah,
it's hard, because I don't think, like, to watch me, like, even my next opponent, I don't think he's going to watch it and say, like, he's doing that special, like, you know. But, you know, I'm not like a Yara Rodriguez or anything like that, you know what I mean? Yeah. That he's going around spinning, and, you know, I'm not, like, you know, doing that special, but, like, I always say it, like, it's until you're in there and you feel the pressure, you know what I mean? And it's like, I don't even realise sometimes, you know, it might be after sparring some lads and like, oh, your pressure was, you know, it's serious, you feel like 100 kilos on top of me, or, you know, whatever. And, you know, it's only when you're in there you feel it, you know what I mean? And I think, again, like I said, I think, you know, there's two things. It's my pace, the pace I put on them. I put my pace on them. You know, like you said, I might not be, you know, I might be a bit hairy 1 or 2 rounds, but like, that's because you watch the fights. I'm going forward.
Yeah.
It's me coming at them. It's not me in the back. I'm like, you know, look at that. I might be getting caught with this or that, or, you know, I might get tucking down, but like, it's because I am I'm the presser. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not as if I'm on the back, but, you know, I'm the presser. And maybe I should take maybe think, you know, well, it went a bit better if I had it, you know, not been just, you know, hell bent. But that's just my style. I put a pace on people, and then third round, obviously, you know, I come in, and then again, the second thing I think would say is John always, I said before, like, I've a, you know, ability to stay calm, you know, and in the pressure cooker, you know what I mean? In the big arenas, the big, you know, whereas, you know, maybe other lads will crumble, so probably that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I wasn't saying that to say anything derogatory, or if you get me, it's like,
no, of course.
I think it's like that. So sometimes when fights aren't going your way, like you said, some people crumble, but like, there hasn't been many times, but like, to pull it out, to have that heart, because I think one of the biggest things Irish fighters have is heart. You've seen it with Danny McCormack, we've seen it with yourself, you've seen it with everyone, but I just think it's so impressive. Sometimes, like that, for me, if something's not going well, I can go off, do you know what, fuck, and especially in a fight, and like you said, that pressured atmosphere, to be able to pull it out in front of all the people that have travelled. You have a huge fan base that travel with you. How does that make you feel when you go to these shows and you're selling 300 odd tickets, you've buses going up and down? How does that feel to have that support with you?
Yeah, like, I mean, as I said before, like, it's just an extra reason to go and get the win. Like, you're just like, I'm fully aware of how much it costs to get to these shows, like the big, like, you know, Bellator and stuff, like, you know, tickets up the nosebleeds that day, you know what I mean? Never mind, you know. So I'm fully aware of people, if they take off work, you know, travel up there, before you put your hand in your pocket, it's €100, you know what I mean? So before you even get a drink, and so I'm fully aware how much that costs, and I really appreciate people. And when you put it in perspective, you're like, no way, they're actually going out of their way to come up here to support me and to, you know, watch me do well. You're just like, you know, it's just an extra reason, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate that. And again, like that, I keep mentioning my sponsors, like, you know, these believe in me, and like, they're like, you know, I want to get behind this lad, you know what I mean? So I just feel it's, you know, the road that, you know what I mean? And again, look, I understand if I pick up a loss, you'd feel a lot of that as well, but like, I know the people I have around me is the right people, and at the end of the day, those who matter don't mind, and those who matter, you know, those that do care, they don't matter, you know what I mean? So that's just the way I look at it, you know what I mean? And again, I just feel blessed because of it, you know?
Yeah, no, it is. And then, like, there's fights, it seems to be twice a year, Bellator come back, and you're going to be fighting at this one, obviously. There's one at the start of the year, you've been to nearly all of them in the past couple of years, but you've missed one or two as well, have you?
No, I haven't missed any double ones as far as the, when I've been pro anyway.
Yeah.
You know, so I haven't missed any, but like that, like, I think it's unbelievable to be able to fight at home, but like, I'd love to get this win, and then please God, maybe, you know, next year, or whatever way it's going to work. Like, as I said, I have to win this fight, you know what I mean? Not looking past it, but it's, you know, I've said before, I'd love to get something abroad, build a bit of buzz, you know, get abroad to America, or whether it be somewhere else in Europe, and, you know, build a bit of buzz for the next one then to Dublin that people want to come and see, or even, like you said, get a few people to come over and watch me and see how many people come support me and stuff, you know, because everybody's always saying to me, when are we getting a holiday out, you know what I mean? So I'd love that, you know what I mean? That's why I get into it, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful. Not many people can say they fought 6 times in the 3 arena, but like, you know, I'm trying to get to, you know, where it's at, which is obviously the States and stuff. And so, yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, focus on the next fella. I have to beat him, so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I like your mindset that you're focused on him and not looking past it, because a lot of fighters say, I won't say who it was, but it was a pro fighter, they look past their opponent and said, if I win him, there was potentially a big contract from somewhere else, and then he lost. But with that goal, like, you're going to be 8-0 if you win this fight, potentially. Like, how far away from a title shot do you believe you could be? Because I think going 8-0 in an organisation should have you fairly close. Has there been talks of that, or do you just wait until they say there's a title shot?
Well, personally, and this is fact, I believe, you know, I feel I'm 2-3 years away from that, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm only 28, like, I know it's not like, you know, 21-year-old, but like, you know, I'm still young. You know, I feel I'm only really starting my pro career, and like, like that, I think, you know, people have mentioned top 10 to me, and it's like, right, fair enough, if I win this, I'll be 8-0 in the company. It's one of the longest streaks in the whole company. I have the most consecutive wins as an Irish fighter in Bellator, you know, so I can get why people would say that, but it's like, for me, it's like, you know, I'm still just trying to climb the ranks. I've never said no to an opponent. If that's what they thought was worthy of, that's what it is. But like I said, I'm just keep stacking them up, and when the time's right, when they feel I'm ready, which they haven't obviously given me anything like that yet, you know, the time will come, you know. But as I said, I can't be looking past and say I'm going to be a world champion or anything. I have to beat the next fella, and the next fella after that. All I can do is focus on the next man, and it's worked for me so far. And like that, as you say, when you look too far ahead, what's next? You know, and I learned that amateur as well. I looked at the gold medal, but I didn't look at the five lads that they beat before. You know, I'd be like, win the gold, and it's like, no, you have to beat 5 people, Ciaran, before you beat. Do you know? So yeah, it's yeah, again, all these lessons and just experience leading up to these things. You know what I mean? It's just, that's my mindset going forward. You know.
Okay, so there's going to be just 2 or 3 more questions as well. I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your day. I know you're very busy. Out of your career so far, and we're going to usually we talk about just the pro, but because you've such an extensive amateur career, 3 fights. Your favourite finish, your favourite performance, and a fight that you learned the most from.
Right. Favourite finish would have to be probably the Jordan Barton fight. The way the fight went, they got caught with the knee, losing 2 rounds. You know, there is a close fight there that was with the Brazilian lad, that was close. But the reaction I got after that, and it really, you know, things really happened for me after that. You know what I mean? I really got good. You know, and the way the crowd went, and looking back on it, it's one that I look back on, and everyone even says to me to this day that fight was, you know, and I think that was the fight that, you know, people looked at and was like, you know, because I think that really for everybody solidified me as, you know, I was serious, because it was like maybe people, you know, maybe the average Joe watching on the telly would say, like I don't look like a fighter. You know, the average, you know, bald and big beard, you know, tattoos and all. I don't look like the stereotypical fighter or whatever, and like probably think I'm going to get the head knocked off me. And then they would have watched it and said, here, he's, you know, look, he's hard as nails. You know what I mean? He's in there to the end. There's no quitting him. He's, you know, he's in there till you put him out. You know what I mean? So I think that, you know, done that for those type of people I don't know, and then for like me peers and like, you know, people in the sport, they were like, that was a solid win. Like, you know, that was, you know, people that I train with every day already knew that, but like, you know, really, like, you know, really showed it. And like, I had people text me saying that fella was a serious, you know, was a serious, great fighter, and you really showed, you know, who you are in that fight. Second, the best performance, my favourite performance, and probably ties in with the you know, with the third one, but is me win against Tobias Harila in the World Championships. Bit of a backstory. That year he had knocked me out. The only time I was ever knocked out from a punch. The quarterfinal of the European Championships, he went on to win silver. He'd knocked everybody. He's a 90% knockout finish rate. Anyway, we all know him. You know what I mean?
He's still doing it now.
Still doing it now, you know, so no shame in that. But he beat me in the second round. I would have won the first round. He was winning the second, caught me, knocked me out. Later on that year, he was wearing the gold kit. He was #1 seed in the tournament, #1 in the world ranked at the time. He was the man that beat. He was the fella that won the World Championships. Everyone followed him with the cameras. He'd the boy the day before because he was the first seed. I fought a Brazilian the day before. He's actually fighting Harry Hardwick now, the Brazilian. Fought him, tough lad, bet him. And I was fighting Tobias the next day, who would knock me out in the March. I went in, dominated the fight 3 rounds. It was a tough fight, but I actually looked in the stool, and after the second I looked over and I could see him shaking his head, and I was like, I have you. And after that fight, I fought the right fight, and I was 3 rounds, got the win over Tobias Harila, and, you know, it showed me character, you know, to come back from that loss and against someone that was, you know, and still to this day he's an animal, you know what I mean? And so to get that win back, and again to learn from that, like, you know, the one that I learned from the most was probably that one as well, you know what I mean? To cut it short a bit, because, you know, you learn a lot about yourself in these fights, and it probably was all them things, you know what I mean? You know, to see how tough you are, you know what I mean? And I already knew that anyway, but it was just like, you know, it shows what you can do, you know what I mean? All the hard work, and, you know, it's like, this is what you're doing, you know what I mean? I'd
say that was a good feeling like that. He'd beat you previously, knocked you out the first time ever, then you're sitting across the cage and you see him shaking his head and you're like, right, I got you. So that must be an amazing feeling. I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 more questions as well. So what's your aspiration? When you first got in, did you want to be a champion? Like, what is the top of your list? Obviously, you've got, like you said, you take one fight at a time, but what's the overall goal for Ciaran Clarke?
I'll be honest, still very hard for me to answer, because like that, I always thought, like, years ago, like, to be like, you know, I'd do interviews when they first start, and like, you know, it'd be like, why do you want to do this? And it's like, I thought I had to say, like, to be a world champion, because it's like, you know, everybody's in it to be a world champion type thing. And I'm not saying I'm not. I'm not saying that I will never be. But it's like, I just can't look past what's really in front, you know, which is the next fella, and, you know, the tough lads I have to beat, you know what I mean? So, and like, obviously everyone is going to say that, but like, I don't know, you know, to be a world champion, like, is such a special, you know, it takes, you know, a special type of person, you know what I mean? And again, I don't know if I am that, you know what I mean? Again, I don't know if that's, I can't see into the future, you know what I mean? And again, like you said, did I get into it for that? No, I didn't. I just get into it just because I wanted to, you know, really, you know, properly, you know, if I walk into a room here, I know if that kicks off, you know what I mean? I can, you know. So that was why I started. And then obviously when I started competing and stuff, is to win amateur belts, world championships, amateur and stuff. But like now it's like, again, like I said, people like, and it's like, I realised the opportunity I have at Bellator, and it's like, I know I'm just taking it all with both hands, and I know the best mentality to take that and to do that is to look each fight. Because if I'm looking at a world championship and this and that, I'm going to be world champion, that might never come. And when I'm done, you know, will I be, you know, it's, and they always say it, and it's, and again, amateur and stuff, people always say, you know, it's the journey, and it really is, you know what I mean? Because it's just like, and everyone's always like, oh, it's all experience, but it is really, you know what I mean? So, again, like that, I don't want to get, you know, but that's it for me. You know, I'm loving this. I'm able to do what I can through the people that I'm around and people that I've met that I'm blessed with, and I'm happy. You know what I mean? That's the main thing, you know.
Okay, so when it's all said and done, how would you like to be remembered, whether it be as a person or as a fighter?
Someone that fought with faith, you know. 2 reasons, you know, had faith in themselves, that always, you know, never give up, stayed at it, stuck with it, no matter through thick and thin, you know, and always believed in themselves. And then the second reason would be, the reason why I would have, you know, is my faith in God, you know what I mean? That, you know, the people I met during my life, the people I was blessed to meet and stuff, the opportunities I got, that's through God, you know what I mean? That's through Jesus giving me that. And like you said, in those fights, you know, that's who's giving me the strength, you know what I mean? It's through him that I'm getting that strength, you know. And again, don't want to go on a bit too much, but you know, that's because it does, you know, it falls in deaf ears sometimes, but that's who I am, and I have to mention that because I wouldn't be here only tonight, you know what I mean? So someone that fought with faith, you know.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's been excellent watching you through the pro ranks thus far. I can't wait to see the rest, and I can't wait to see how your career unfolds. And like you, I'm not looking too far ahead for you now. I'm just looking at your next fight. I can take that mentality for you because I really do think you should be fighting for a championship fairly soon. But look, if you're happy with every fight that's in front of you, that's the best way forward because you do you, because you've been doing quite well as it is.
Thanks a million. I really appreciate it. Thanks a million. Thank you.